We're live. Ooh, we got 50 people in the house waiting. Sweet. What's up, everybody? Welcome to Own the Chaos. My name is Brad. That over there is Fat Man Zoom. The stock market is crazy and chaotic, and we made it our mission to help you guys own it. Fat Man Zoom, it's been a crazy day. I don't know. The stock market started off great. Then it then it sucked, and now it's trying to make it come back. But we'll get into reasons as to why, what kind of steps we're making. Do you have the starting five for me?
I do. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Starting five, we had, whoa, that was crazy. That? Did you see that?
Yeah.
We got Buzz Jones, John Gosson, Sean Ethier, Funny Pranks Gone Wrong, and Mike Hudson. You are starting five. I feel like I'm in the Ravens podcast. My shadow in the back.
Oh, yeah, Marlins, yeah.
Yeah, we got our first five. We got a nice little start. I guess people are freaking out and come check us out.
Yeah, so guys, we're going to be getting into why the market's doing what it is doing, and should we prepare ourselves for, maybe a continuation in the sell-off, or is this a buy the dip opportunity? And I'm actually going to be asking Fat Man Zoom some questions on some things that I'm getting into as well. Get some input from him and definitely from you guys. So make sure that you putting it in the chat. So go ahead and hit that like button if you guys want to support the channel, and if you want to support the channel even further, today's show has been brought to you by the Chaos Crew. If you guys hit this join button next to subscribe, you get to be a part of the crew, the channel membership. We put out a watch list every single day of the week, give you a snapshot of what's going on in the market, and kind of put out 5 stocks that we think might actually end up being worth watching. We hit the nail on the head. I'm just going to say it. We crush it. I know I'm biased, but we crush it low key. This Ford call that I put out on Sunday, Stock Watch Sunday, that we put in the watch list, crushed it. And we gave you a nice detailed write up on Ford, and it is one of the highlights of the week so far. So you guys want to be a part of that crew and help support the channel, help support the studios you see behind me. We'd love to have you guys as part of the Chaos Crew. What's up, Fat Man Zoom? How you doing, man? How you doing today? What's your account looking like?
Not good. Hold on. A couple things are up. I mean, Marathon Oil is up.
Yeah.
BP is up.
Yeah.
Let me actually see. I haven't checked it in a minute. Tesla, actually, I'm happy that it's held up rather well. I thought it'd be hammered a little bit more, but I was pleased that it wasn't that bad of a sell-off. A lot of red. I mean, not unlike I'm sure a lot of people out there. But ChargePoint actually having a surprising day, up 3%. And Drive Shack obviously didn't do too well. But Marathon Oil, BP are my green guys. But overall, a lot of the other stuff beaten down. And as an account overall, I'm right about 3% today. So that's where I'm at.
Not bad. That's not bad. I'm red too. Not as red as I could have been, but I'm down 4%. So, my Ford calls went absolutely nuts. I ended up taking some profit on that, and it's still looking really good. I'm up 100% on those Ford calls right now. And it's continuing to rock and roll. Ford came out. If you guys didn't get this news, Ford came out with some really awesome EV related news. We've talked about Ford, at least I've mentioned, and I would say the Fat Man Zoom probably concurred for the most part on a Ford being a big contender in the EV space when it comes to, working their way into this market. We've always talked about Tesla is always going to be king, and I don't think that anybody's disputing that. I think there is a case that you could make that Ford comes in and takes up a giant part of the market share just based off of some of the demand we're seeing. And Ford is doubling down, Fat Man Zoom, $11 billion investment, the largest investment that Ford's ever made on anything, period, on 2 locations for the Ford Lightning. We have 150,000 pre-orders already in progress with this. It's going to add 11,000 jobs. And in the beginning of the market today, the stock was up considerably, up around 4.5%. It's obviously come back down with the rest of the market, but it is one of the few green stocks that we're seeing today.
Yeah, I'm Glad you brought that up because I'm interested in this topic. First thing I just want to point out is um, this is a compliment, but my have you been lucky with Affirm and Ford? And what do they say? Luck is when opportunity meets preparation. So by no
Yes.
means do I want to say, but like you got the Amazon news, which was great timing, and you
Yeah.
got this Ford news, which had already been running, so you were doing well on it. But again, this news came out, and to the Chaos Crew members that were in this, kudos. It's just nice when the stuff you come in gets a nice unexpected catalyst.
Yeah, for sure. I
The
mean, I put it on the watch list this past week just because I thought the momentum was going to carry it, not necessarily because I thought this big news was going to come in.
Here's the thing I wanted to bring to the table, and I think it's important to have this conversation because this news on the surface seemed good, and I actually threw it in the Discord, the Chaos Crew Discord when the news came out, get people excited. Thought it would be a nice move today, holding up when the rest of the market's selling off. But the more I just read it and thought about it, I don't necessarily think it's all a rosy picture. And I actually have a couple concerns based off of the news. And I just wanted to present it to you and see what your thoughts were. We talk about always having the bull and the bear case.
Yeah.
If I'm in Ford, this is bullish for me short term. Certainly, this is exciting to think about what they're doing towards EVs. However, what wasn't making me feel as good was the fact that this isn't going to come to fruition. I think it said till 2025 at the earliest, 2026.
Yep.
And we know that a lot of these plans, especially when you think about construction, headquarters, building things, Tesla's the best at doing it. But they even have delays, and they're better than most at ramping these facilities up. That made me a little bit nervous because, one, if 2025, 26 is the goal, I think it's likely that that could get pushed back. And I worry what happens between now and then. The EV hype right now certainly benefits Ford, but what does that mean for 2022, 2023, 2024 as other companies ramp up production and companies like Tesla move? I worry how much capital Ford's having because they're committing to EVs. And what that means is that the current obviously their cars they're going to be producing, but they're going to be focusing on EVs. So I'm kind of worried about the midterm. I'm not worried
Yeah.
about the short term. I'm not worried about the long term, but I am worried about the midterm and thinking about profitability, thinking about cash on hand. And if there's any sort of delays, that actually scares me a little bit. Is that warranted at all? Did you think anything of that when you heard the dates?
A little bit, but it's not going to stop. So just to clarify for anybody who's listening, this is when the plants are going to be done. Will be 25, 26. The Ford Lightning is supposed to start deliveries by 2022,
Yeah.
and actually the deliveries will be out before the Cybertruck is of Tesla. So that's it's interesting because there's this dynamic of, yes, we know that Tesla likes to just is really good at popping up these factories and cranking out vehicles. But as of late, and I think a lot of this has to do with the raw material side of things. We heard from Lisa Su about the chip shortage being going in well into 2023, maybe even towards the end of the year before things finally fix themselves. And so that's really impacting semiconductors right now. I mean, AMD is threatening to break down below $100 a share. And so, I think that's the biggest factor, but both of those companies are going to reel in that. And so, yeah, I mean, there's definitely bear cases you can make. That's certainly one of them. I think the chip shortage is the biggest one, but demand isn't slowing down at all. And it seems as if these automotive companies can actually carry the price on to some of these increased prices in raw materials onto the consumer. It doesn't seem to be slowing that down anytime soon. So there is going to be this dynamic, and we're seeing this with the retailers, right? I mean, Nike's latest earnings kind of represented that demand's still strong, it's still in there, but they're having trouble getting product out to the people. We're seeing that with the automotive industry as well. So yeah, man, I mean, I think there's definitely a long road to go for this, but overall, I still feel confident in Ford.
Yeah, I'd be a little fearful. And I actually think that one, it's easy to look at Tesla, but if we if we're saying they're not true competitors, then you probably need to use something else in the example, which benefits the Ford argument.
Yeah.
However, I actually think the semiconductor shortage is, again, like Tesla's 50% growth rate, and they're projecting continued 50% growth rate. And Elon has talked about it. I think he's tried to temper expectations. But the reality is when you look at the numbers, they're going to hit 50%
Yeah.
minimum this year. And so that actually, I think, hurts other companies because they're not able to keep up as well. So, yeah, certainly Tesla has things that you can bring up against it. But, I mean, if you just want to make the Cybertruck case, pre-orders for Ford Lightning are 100,000, which is respectable.
150.
Pre-orders for Cybertruck, what's that?
150.
Are they at 150 now?
Yeah.
Cybertruck's over 1 million.
Right.
So if they get out early, that's certainly their advantage. But that's why I think like you probably need to like I think looking at like a GM or like don't even want to say Lucid, but like who they really need to beat because Tesla is just I don't know, they're like they just continue to ramp up, and I don't even think they need Cybertruck. And quite frankly, you know this as well as I do, the 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 target for Cybertruck isn't the same person buying the Ford Lightning, even though they're pickups, they're trucks. I think it's a different person.
Yeah, 100%. And this wasn't me trying to pin one against the other because I think they both can live in the same space. This is me, making the case for Ford coming into a strong second place. Not really necessarily
Yeah,
taking over Tesla because they're as far as the tech's concerned and their demographic, it seems to be a whole different demographic than Ford's. But Ford's got a lot of good things going for it as well. I mean, the F-150 is the number one selling truck in the world. Now they're turning it into an EV. I think that's going to be big for them. Obviously, the brand loyalty is certainly there. So, if it's going to be Tesla number one as far as EVs are concerned, and I think you can make a strong argument that Ford comes in at number two.
really.
Yeah,
I'm not disagreeing with you. That's a bold proclamation.
yeah, I
Um,
think so.
yeah, and that'll obviously be great. Isn't it? Isn't Didn't Tesla build their Gigavat? Am I wrong in that? Didn't they build it in like less than a year? Or am I totally wrong on this?
I believe the Chinese factory was built less than a year.
Obviously, Berlin was different because it had some external factors and regulators slowing it down. It wasn't theirs. But that also speaks to how quickly they ramp things up. And I think, you know, you obviously set up the bull case, and I'm playing devil's advocate here. But I think
Yeah,
the other thing to keep an eye on, and really is going to make a difference for the Fords, the GMs, the legacy companies, are how quickly they can pivot. And it's great to say we're going to invest all this money, but what I worry and what I thought about in this article is like 3 years. Like honestly, or obviously, you can produce cars now, but like to have those new facilities, 3 years, maybe 4 or 5. That is like what I'm worried about for these companies. It's like Tesla dominates because they're able to just move quicker than other automotive companies. And I think second place and third place goes to those companies that can pivot properly, where they can put out a good product,
yeah,
but they can also pivot quicker. But I do like the commitment that Ford's making. And I mean, the CEO is betting on this. This is a bet. And if they do it properly, they'll definitely be in the running for second place. But if it doesn't work out, it might be the demise of the CEO, not Ford, because the last CEO wasn't for this move. It's
right.
it's the current CEO that's really pushing for it,
Well, the
but it
last
is
CEO
the
was
right
an idiot.
move.
I was going to say the last CEO was an idiot.
Yeah,
If you weren't for this, then you're an idiot. It is going to be interesting to see how this all plays out. I mean, I will say the China factory I think was a little bit of an outlier because the China they put up factories out like and they don't care about the environment. There's no like real hurdles to jump over. If the government says that we're putting up a factory and we want it up in 9 months, it goes up in 9 months. In the US, you have a little bit more red tape to run through. I mean, I don't know if how close we are to the Dallas factory being up and running. Berlin obviously has had its own issues, and then you have to throw COVID in there too. So there's certainly a lot of hurdles to jump over. I mean, who knows? Who knows? But again, for me, it's not like I'm not trying to compare Ford to Tesla. I just think that if we're looking for second place, I think Ford ends up being the one.
Um, yeah, I'm interested to see the competition and who, if somebody else comes in that's either new to the game or that we haven't even seen yet.
Yeah,
But it's not. I don't think it's an outlandish comment, and I just want to clarify.
yeah,
Maybe it's not bold. I don't know. I think that I think it's more. I just haven't necessarily heard a clear two for you, and so you're proclaiming Ford is two. I think that's what I'm just pointing out. We've
yeah,
got it. We've got it on camera, but I don't know if I'd say that like that's such an obvious guess. I mean, the reality is, U.S. There's other countries that are really trying to focus on EVs and renewables, and like to say Ford's going to dominate in China doesn't seem likely. I think like second place could possibly be second place in China as well, or second place in Europe as well. So like, while it, I don't know, I just don't think it's as obvious as a call as like you made. I think that's a big prediction.
yeah, yeah. Oh yeah, it's Austin. So I sorry I misspoke. Austin, the Austin location for the Gigafactory. Anyways, it's in Texas. Same thing. But but yeah, I mean, China Ford doesn't have a huge presence in China. GM has a bigger presence over there. Ford dominates in Europe.
Yeah.
Um, so it really could be anybody's game still. I mean, we're still in the early innings of it, but yeah, I mean, I really like Ford just because I was very shocked to see how many Mach-E's that they sold, given the fact that it was. I personally thought that it was ugly, but they leaned on that Mustang brand and they sold more cars than model. They sold more model Mach-E's than Model 3s in the first quarter of this year, which I thought was very interesting. So, you know, again, I don't know if it ends up being number. I don't. I know it won't end up being number one, but I think number two could be that. And then you make the argument like who ends up coming up ahead of Ford if it's not Ford for number two. Um, so yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how this all plays out, in the years to come. But I like Ford at this point, and I'm not. I was telling our folks in level three. I'm not even like a Ford guy. I grew up like GM. I was GM all the way. I loved all my Chevy stuff. My grandfather wrenched on cars, and it was all he was a GM guy. So this wasn't something that like I feel like I'm biased on because I'm a Ford guy. It was just you kind of see the writing on the wall, and you're like, man, they actually are buying into this. And not that GM isn't, but it seems as if is kind of leading the way on it so far.
Philip Stroh says Ford's going to be number one, Brad.
I don't know about that. They
They'll
got a
be
long
number
ways.
one pickup truck, EV pickup trucks. I think we've
Yeah,
said that pretty frequently.
yeah,
But
yeah.
I'll,
I know.
I'll bet whatever you want that Ford will
No,
not be number one.
no, number one EV. That's not going to be a thing. No, not going to
But
be.
yeah, so it remains to be seen. And to be clear, for those of you who are beating me up, saying I'm like because I'm bearish on this, my point was I said it would do well short term.
Yeah,
Um, I'm just thinking about like longer term. If it's in your portfolio, it may be a choppy ride. That's my whole point. I think you look past 2026, they're going to be in the game. They've done a great job. They navigated the last recession well. They've come out of this one
yep,
fine.
yep.
So they're going to be around. There's no doubt about that. But I'm more saying I don't know if it's going to be linear straight through. I think there might be some choppiness, especially the other thing you got to consider with Ford is to us, it may seem obvious to say, hey, we're going in the direction on EVs, but them going all in on EVs with a brand that's like as American as it gets, as like you think about pickup trucks, you think about blue collar, a lot of people on their board are not in the same mindset. So like
Yeah,
to think that it's just easy for the CEO to say, hey, this is the direction we're coming in. I don't think that it was as easy of a sell as easy of a sell as some people are making it. There's a lot of the old guard that I'm sure didn't want to do that, didn't want to make that move, and there probably was some. There could have been some pushback. We're obviously not privy to those board meetings, but it's a big thing to say, hey, we've been around, we've managed, and we've done things a certain way. let's just, I mean, they're not kind of going in, they're going all in. And
Yeah.
so that's big for a company like this. But I think this is what makes companies like, I don't know if I should compare it to Apple, but you think about Apple, we talk about Apple, Amazon. There's a difference between a company that just ends up being an old dog and one that can reinvent themselves. And I think that's the question, that is, will it be able to reinvent itself? Certainly looks promising.
Yeah. I think so too. I saw somebody asking about Toyota, which is arguably the by market cap is the largest auto manufacturer. They haven't. First of all, if Toyota goes as far in with the EV side of things as Ford does, then potentially they could be number two. Um, but they haven't done that yet. I mean, their CEOs come out and talked about hydrogen powered and like how that could be the future. While Elon Musk has come out and said that it's a stupid way to create sustainable vehicles, and it's not efficient enough. Um, so I don't know. I think if Toyota decides to change lanes a little bit and totally buy into the EVs, yes, but they gotta figure out a way to do it, and then they have to try to play catch up with something like Tesla. I mean, I don't know if Toyota has the capability at this point to catch up to Tesla as far as technology is concerned. You look at the Model 3, and I kind of look at the Model 3 and the Camry as the same class of vehicle. If the Camry comes out with an EV and it actually can hold a candle to the technology, the range that something like Tesla has, sure, maybe, but Toyota is going to struggle with that, I think. And sure, you have some brand loyalty there, but I don't know if it's enough. A lot of the folks that were big Toyota, Honda, consumers have really shifted over to Tesla in the Model 3, and you can argue the Model S as well. So I don't know, man. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough, I think, for Toyota.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's a similar concern if you're looking at it, where they're looking at 2025, 2026, where they're really in full ramp up mode.
Yeah,
Where is the competition going to be by then? And I don't think you discount new companies. Like, I think this is an opportunity, because you think about, if a new company comes in as a tech company, as Tesla has, you have a lot of benefits in that,
yeah,
rather than an old company trying to shift over. You think about the staffing, like, these cars are different. And so there's a ramp up here. There's a lot of things to figure out, but where is Tesla, and where are these new companies starting from scratch that are committed to just solely EVs? Where are they going to be in 2025? We already know that Tesla will have a Cybertruck. Tesla will have, obviously, their current lineup, but they're also going to have a $25,000 vehicle or sub $30,000 vehicle on top of that. How
right.
many have they sold by then? And that's the one thing that you got to think about, where it's like, man, could they be producing 3, 4, 5 million vehicles by then? That's not like far fetched.
Right. Right. I
So
like what Don says here. I like what Don says here. Just didn't mean to cut you off. He says
no, good.
Apple has the money to buy a functional line printing cars every day. That's the one I would say could be a threat if they lit that fire. I think that's certainly a great argument that you make. You can make, especially if they move forward with one of the major car companies. We've obviously heard Hyundai has been a partner of theirs, that they might be working on something. If they could somehow get that off the ground, perhaps maybe that could be something. But it'd have to be more than one vehicle lineup. I don't know. That it would be interesting to see how that would play out. But I think you're right. I think if there was one company that could do it, that came out of left field, they probably could be one to do it.
Yeah, they got the cash to do it. They got the team certainly to support that. But this is an ongoing conversation. Guys,
Yeah.
if you like it, hit that thumbs up. Definitely tune in, because we'll continue to keep an eye on Ford as well as the other EVs, obviously Tesla being one of them. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button as well. We got
Yeah.
130 people in the house. Is that right? Or do we have more?
No, we got 130. Thanks for hanging out with us, guys. Again, as Fat Man Zoom was saying, hit that like button if you guys are enjoying the stream so far. Didn't mean to go on such a tangent, but man, it was just a good conversation. Couldn't help but keep going with it. Just that EV convo, like you said, we're gonna continue that conversation as things continue to develop. But that was a good convo.
Yeah,
I don't
I
want to cut it off.
as we go into close, I know a lot of you are probably here about what the hell happened today,
Yeah.
and more importantly, what's happening tomorrow and the next day. Um, it was a tough day. What are your thoughts about this? I mean, we can recap sort of what's been in the news as far as the obvious reasons why the factors for today's turn down.
Yeah, so as the title says, why is the market down? The stock market plunged today. The Dow was down as much as 600 points. The Qs got hammered. The Nasdaq was down over 3% at one point. Let me just check on the Qs right now. Right now, I'm looking at, as we're heading into close, we've got now about 90 seconds to go, and the S&P is down around 2%. I'm looking at the Qs right now, and they are still getting hammered, but not quite as bad as it was. Just off their lows, around 2.78%. So it's been really tough. Why? What's going on here? One of the big reasons is because we're starting to see Treasury yields go up. The inflation conversation continues to just wreak havoc on the markets. We've been talking about this since March, and I feel sick about it at this point. But the 10-year yield has gone up pretty considerably. Not really in any kind of rate that I think would be alarming. And we talked about this a little bit yesterday, Fat Man Zoom, about how I thought that, we could see the 10-year yield go up, but I don't think it's going to be with the same type of velocity that we saw in March. And I still stand by that. I mean, it's up over 1.5 today. And so the stocks that get hit the hardest with this are the high flying tech stocks that rely on lending. We talked about a couple of them, Asana, Palantir. I mean, the list goes on and on. I have Airbnb, which you could throw in that category as well. That's not having a good day. But this is a good sign for the economy that things are kind of getting back up to where they need to be. And there is potential opportunities to buy the dip. That's not the only black cloud that's hanging over the markets right now. We have obviously the debt ceiling, the budget issues that we're having with Congress, and there's a lot of turmoil, not just from a partisan standpoint, but there's Democrats also fighting with each other on this. So there's just a lot of question marks as far as that's concerned. If the government defaults on their loans, it'll be the first time that's ever happened in history. We could see a huge crash if that ends up happening. Now, I will say the chances of that happening are pretty small, but we got to be aware that that's certainly a possibility. The other thing is the Fed chair Powell came out and was testifying in front of Congress today as well. Basically, the almost kind of plead his case to be renominated. Now, Treasury Secretary Janet Yellen was in full support of him, and then Elizabeth Warren comes out and basically rips him up one side down the other, calls him a dangerous man. Pretty strong words coming from the Democratic senator. So there's just a lot of riff going on. There's no consistency. There's a lot of question marks, and the market doesn't like that. They want certainty, whether it's good or bad. Give us an answer. And so there's a lot that's going on, without getting too political. That's just the dynamic of the markets right now. So what do we do? I still think that a lot of this, for the most part, is noise, Fat Man Zoom. And, we saw this last week, right? Where there was a lot of noise that went on, especially with the Fed meeting, and people were worried that maybe he was going to move up the timeline too much. And people were scared of that. I think that there's certainly a how do I put this? Just noise, this wall of worry that people keep climbing. So I do think that this is going to be an opportunity to buy the dip, but I want to make sure that we're smart about it as well.
What
So
the?
what's going on? I was on a roll. We'll get you situated. Can you hear me?
Your voice sounds like a monster.
Oh, does it?
Can you hear me all right, or do I sound weird?
I can hear you fine.
Oh man, I'm sorry.
That's all right. But anyways, I was just saying that I think a lot of this stuff is noise, and I think that there's definitely going to be good opportunities to buy the dip on some of this stuff. But I want to make sure that we're being smart about it. If we're going to see the Treasury yield continue to go up, which we talked about yesterday, then I think that looking towards things like oil and value stocks, the banks, I think they're all going to continue to do well going into the end of the year, especially as the economy continues to start opening back up. Those epicenter stocks, those reopening stocks that we've talked about should continue to roll as well, despite the treasury yield going up. And then kind of like staying away from the high flying tech, not the large cap techs. I still think that Apple and Amazon are still ones worth holding on to, but those other ones I think are going to be worth leaning into heading into the end of the year. And Batman Zoom's having some tech issues.
No. Sorry.
It's okay.
It's been fun. I wish you could hear what this sounds like. Before I go,
yeah,
you could take it away.
Again.
Before I go, I just want you to be able to hear it on your end.
Okay.
Don't forget to talk about Amazon.
I won't.
If you get time.
Yeah.
And and obviously don't forget to tell them what stocks they should buy on this dip. I'm gonna let you go because I can't hear anything.
All right.
Bye, guys. Bye.
See you then. All right. Let's so just to carry on the conversation, I still think that this is a lot of it's going to be noise, and I think in particular the stocks that really got hit hard today obviously were the tech stocks, and but the ones that I think that got hit hard today that didn't deserve to get hit hard today, in my opinion, were the fangs. The fangs got hit big time. What's the FANG plus? FNGS. I want to say it's FNGS. Yeah. So we look at the ETF on FANG stocks in general. It's been a tough day, down 2.3%. If you guys don't know FNGS, this is a ETF that is comprised of all the FANG stocks plus Microsoft. And a couple of other ones, but primarily that's what it is. You can see that it hasn't been doing so hot. I think with the 10-year yield going up, these are the stocks that you actually kind of want to lean into despite the turn down here. Because the stocks that get mostly affected are the ones that rely on lending. And we know this, right? Does Apple need any kind of, of lending support? No, they don't. Microsoft, all of these $1 trillion stocks don't care necessarily about the 10-year yield. So I think that these are actually going to be good ones to get into. The value is going to be good ones to get into. I think that it's certainly going to be a good buy the dip type of situation. I personally, for me, am looking at some certain areas. I already have Apple calls. I already have Facebook calls. So I'm good there. But I'm looking towards some of the reopening plays. And one that I don't necessarily have a whole lot of exposure to is the airlines. I have Spirit Air Systems, which has been doing really well. I actually took some profit a little bit on the Spirit Air Systems calls. I had $43 calls that I bought last week, and they were monstrous. Had over 100% gains on those calls. I'm in the money on them now, and I actually ended up just trimming that a little bit. So feel really good about this position, but that's the manufacturing side of it and the industrial side of it, which gives me plenty of exposure. I wanted to get airline exposure. And so you guys know that Southwest is certainly one to consider leaning into. We also have Delta Airlines, which, is still underperforming the market this year. I think also that could be a little bit of a sleeper and that maybe not a whole lot of people are looking at, that has lagged the rest of the ETFs. The Jets ETF, the industry itself, is Alaska Airlines. Alaska Airlines just popped up over the 200-day moving average. And despite the fact that we saw the market moving down over the last 2 days, I think that this is going to be a good one. I think this is going to be a good one to hang on to just because of the move up over the 200-day moving average. It looks like it's hanging in there pretty good. This is one that I'm considering getting some options calls onto. Maybe something out towards December or the beginning of next year could be something that I might end up looking into. What are my expirations on these? Good question. Austin says, so the expirations on, it depends. I have a couple of ones that I have different expirations on. Most of them are later later of this month. The ones that I'm looking on for Alaska Airlines that I was potentially looking into was the November 19th ones. These are the ones I was looking into. Again, not necessarily going to pull the trigger on it just yet, but they're ones that I'm looking at the moment. Spirit Air Systems, the expiration on that is October 15th. but I've had calls on that for the last 2 weeks. So I got them for a month out at the time. Do I just buy calls now? I mean, listen, yes, I just buy calls right now. I still want to get a little bit more into the wheel strategy, but at this point, I'm still trying. Again, full disclosure, I'm still just getting into the options game. I've been an investor for a very long time, but never really played around with options. I've always just kind of been in straight up in shares, but the options bug has bitten me, and so I've been going light on these. I haven't gone crazy. I'm not going nuts. Ford was my biggest trade so far that I went in pretty heavy on, just because of the confidence that I had in it. But really, I haven't gone crazy on anything else. Uh, I don't risk a whole lot on these, but the obviously the potential to make some pretty decent money on them is pretty good as long as you know what you're doing. Which I don't claim to know what I'm doing 100% of the time. Full disclosure. um. Yeah. So let's go ahead and look at just how the overall market responded today and what we closed at. So let me pull that up here real quick. All right. So today the markets ended up closing. Let's see. S&P closed down 2%. The Dow closed down 1.6%. NASDAQ closed down 2.83%. Pretty rough stuff for them. But yeah. Here's the other thing. Oil also, we didn't talk about this today, but oil went crazy. It was up over $76 this morning. It did have a pullback. It kind of responded with the rest of the market, but oil was a huge mover today. You haven't heard me mention that today about buying the dip on that, only because I have such a huge amount of exposure to this. OIH has been my security of choice. And I think that this is actually going to continue to go higher as well. We look at it. I don't know why this does this. This is what I want. This is what I want. But it obviously has gapped up over the 200-day moving average, and it continues to move up. Now that it's up over $200 a share, I think OIH has got plenty of room left to run. If you don't like OIH because it's too expensive for you, go take a look at something like Halliburton. The oil services, ETFs, oil services in general have lagged the price of oil for quite some time, and I expect some sort of catch up to take place here in the near future. So you look at something like Halliburton, and it could make its way up towards $25 a share. Halliburton is one of the larger pieces of the pie, if you will, in OIH. So I really like that one. There's no crash course on options, says Vinay, just a crash account. Yeah, well, it's a good thing that I know how to manage risk. So anyways, let's see here. Don is the options expert, 100%. How many times do you want me to say it? Don is, yeah, go follow him at the Don Front Show. But a couple other things. Amazon had its event today that we didn't really get a chance to cover, but it closed the day down 2.5%. Interesting thing that came out of that was that Amazon had a product that they announced what is this called? Amazon announces Astro the home robot. And this is what I don't understand. So I'm guessing that Astro the home robot is a play on words to the Jetsons, which I understand Astro was the dog. But if I'm not mistaken, and you guys let me know in the comments below, Astro the dog was an actual dog, wasn't a robot in the Jetsons, right? Rosie was the robot in the Jetsons. Why did Amazon not name it Rosie? Isn't that right? I mean, somebody let me know. But anyways, this looks actually pretty interesting. It's the first household robot powered by Alexa and their smart home technology. They said it can be remote controlled when not at home to check on pets and all that good stuff. So it's just another tool in their tool belt. It was something cool that I thought may end up getting some traction, and I'm sure we'll see it in a lot of other homes. But yeah, I mean, they're still doing and innovating and doing all kinds of crazy stuff. But I really like Amazon here, especially on the potential dip. But if you look at it, it actually bounced right off the 200-day moving average just today. We'll see what tomorrow brings. But if this holds at 3,300, I like it at this price point. Amazon, this looks pretty good. Can we hear about more about this risk management? Says Austin. Yeah, don't spend more than you can afford to lose. Here's what happens when people. So the interesting thing about me getting into options, if you guys don't haven't been around for a while, this channel started on penny stocks. I started on penny stocks, and then I started the channel, which started on penny stocks. And I made a pretty damn good living doing it. Never really messed around with options. Decided to work my way up to larger cap stocks because it was a little bit more safer. I didn't have to, worry about things going crazy. If I decided to just get up and go take a shit or something, trust me, it would happen in penny stock land. You blink and something, you lost 50%. And this is kind of how I'm treating the option side of things. And I'm not going crazy on, it would be usually I would take typically a very small amount of capital to buy up some penny stocks. I'm taking relative to my account size. I'm taking small amounts of money into call options just to kind of see where it goes. And if it doesn't work out, I stop out, I'm out, I'm done, boom, whatever. Still haven't had that happen to me yet, but it's coming. But I've been managing risk that way. As soon as I'm in the green, I start setting a stop and then let it run. And then wherever it goes, it goes. And then at the end of the day, I'm still going to make money on it. And that's kind of the strategy that I've been employing on these options calls. And as long as I feel like, you have a lot of people that get bit by the options bug and they just start whole accounting shit. Then all of a sudden they just blow up the account because they don't know any better on how to manage risk. But at the end of the day, if you're risking small, you're not going to lose big. And so that's kind of how I've approached it. I'm working my way to getting more in the money type calls and working on looking into the wheel strategy a little bit more. The Don Fran show has been helping me out with that. Yeah, that's kind of how I've been approaching the risk management side. But yeah, penny stocks have been printing big time. Own the Chaos was a play on words from OTC for OTC penny stocks, in case anybody was curious how the channel name originated. That's where it came from. All right, guys. So I think that's going to do it for me. If you guys like the show, if you guys would like to get more of Own the Chaos, I'd encourage you to check out the join button next to subscribe. If you guys want to be a part of the Chaos crew, help support the channel, we certainly would love to have you guys here with us. Every morning we put out a watch list, pretty detailed on what we think might be moving in the market. If you guys want access to that, along with my portfolio, our Discord group, all that stuff, the join button's next to subscribe. We'd love to have you guys as a part of the crew. If you don't want to take that route, that's all good. Just at least hit the subscribe button, hit that thumbs up, and we'll be back tomorrow at 3:30 p.m. Eastern time to go over whatever the hell else is happening. If the market decides to pick a direction tomorrow, we'll certainly be talking on that as the reasons as to why and what plan of action we might be taking tomorrow as well. So that's going to do it for me, guys. Thanks so much for tuning in. As always, I'll see you all before the bell. MB Smith is out. Have a good one, guys. We'll see you tomorrow.